What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Trainwreck Sports Postgame Radio Show. Here it is Jake the Snake from State Farm, Jake Micah on Twitter, and we are here to break down the Bills postgame. Bills game. The Bills defeat the Commanders 37-3 in a just outright dominant performance, especially defensively. 9 sacks from the defensive line. Everybody got in on the action. So while you're here, if you're here on Twitter or X, go give us a subscription. Go please like and subscribe on YouTube. We'll be going on there. If you want to throw questions in the YouTube chat or right under this tweet, go ahead. In this comment thread underneath, if you want to throw some questions, get involved, go right ahead. So let's get into it. Let's get into the breakdown of the game. 37-3. It's a pretty dominant performance all the way around. Let's get into some of the key stats from the game for the Buffalo Bills today. We got to start defensively, though, right? I mean, 9 sacks, but really, it's Terrell Bernard, the player of the game. Terrell Bernard, what a showing for Bernard. I mean, just really like everything that people worried about this season at middle linebacker when Tremaine Edmunds left. There's a lot of Tremaine Edmunds fans. There's a lot of Tremaine Edmunds haters out there. But Terrell Bernard shut all those critics up today and really showed a ceiling that I don't know if a lot of people thought he had. 2 sacks, 1 interception, 1 fumble recovery. The interception is something you have to go watch. It was an incredible play that he made on that ball in the middle of the field. He really baited Howell into that soft throw over the middle of the field, and he picked him off. And just a great game. The 2 sacks, Oliver with a sack and a half, Daquan Jones with a sack and a half, Leonard Floyd with back-to-back sacks on one play, on one drive. Rousseau got in on it. Epineza got in on the sack, and the Epineza pick 6. I mean, what a crazy play. I mean, what an athletic play. If you haven't seen that, please go watch that back a million times. It was a crazy play from Epineza, who had a really good game today again. And then Micah Hyde and Trey White getting back on the board with some interceptions themselves. Great defensive performance. And we got to just give shout out right at the top to Terrell Bernard. He's definitely the player of the game and the bright spot of this game because that middle linebacker position feels pretty solidified with him. So we're here on the Trainwreck post game, breaking down the Bills' 37-3 win over the Commanders. We know we got some action going on around the NFL still here. On my screen, I've got the Packers and the Saints. The Saints looking to drive. They're in field goal territory, down by 1 in Lambeau. The Patriots and Jets are late. The Jets looking to tie it up. Baltimore and Indy tied late with Lamar and the Ravens looking to take the lead there. They're at about the 40-yard line. and the Chargers up by 4 late on the Vikings. So that's around some action from around the league. Obviously, the Dolphins, if you're looking there, the Bills play Dolphins next week. If you were born under a rock. The Dolphins have been otherworldly today. They've been really just killing it. And I think one of the things that Mike McDaniel's favorite team growing up was the Broncos. He wanted to put a beating on them today, and they definitely did. So it's a scary look coming to see the Dolphins come in this next week. But I would imagine the NFL media, the NFL general public right now is going to look at this week's results, see the Bills 37-3, see the Dolphins score, whatever that actually ends up. And these are two teams coming in at the tip of their powers in a huge early season showdown. That's really all it comes down to. Dolphins currently up 63-20. They might put up 70 today against Denver. I don't think that's possible against the Bills. I think the biggest thing about the Bills, if we talk about today's game, it's really defensively, the defensive side of the ball and how that defensive line took over. A lot of the talk around Allen this week and the Bills offense was how are they going to deal with the defensive line of the Commanders' 4 first-round picks. We saw them get dominated week 1 in that way by the Jets, but Allen was under control today, besides the one mistake with the deep pick, which is still something I really don't mind. So we got I'm seeing Justin Tucker go for a 61-yard field goal attempt here, and the Jets are going to lose to the Patriots. Justin Tucker, and that's a win. So no, he misses it. Okay, so we're going to overtime in Baltimore, and the Saints are going to be kicking a field goal here in a second too. But yeah, I think this defensive line really showed that's what this team's been built around all offseason. I've been saying it all offseason. The crux of this team at this point is that they are going to be their strength is going to be their defensive line. And no one expected Bernard to be this good. So that's one of the biggest things is that Bernard has raised the expectation level of what that secondary can be. And I think he's doing a great job holding it down for where everybody kind of thought they were going to miss Edmonds. And that back end has looked better and letting up their chunk plays in the last. There were still a couple chunks today. Sam Howell was ineffective, but they still were able to get some big passes down the field. That's the biggest concern going into next week is the explosives. But that D-line is so dominant, and Von Miller's not even back yet. This team is going to be at its best with a dominant D-line. That's what they've been trying to do for years. That's why they keep spending these high picks on these defensive end, defensive linemen, whoever they can get. And the Saints miss to the right. The Packers are going to take it there. Okay. But that's really what it is. And that secondary can make plays on the ball when the D-line is able to affect the game in such a way. You know what I mean? So that was really encouraging from the Buffalo Bills today. That defensive line, 9 sacks, a young quarterback. Sean McDermott, listen, if the Bills are playing a young quarterback, Sean McDermott's going to own them. I need to go look it up, the last couple years of stats of that defense against a young team. But, man, it's got to be high. Like, they've got to have a great record. McDermott's been able to dominate against these teams, against these younger teams, against these younger quarterbacks, really confuse them, really make it hard for them to kind of get going. And yeah, man, it was a really great performance from the defense. I think that the defense, as we see, it is 70-0 Dolphins right now. This is otherworldly. They got 70 points. So we've got that team coming in, but that's what I'm talking about, this defensive line, because next week that's the way that they're going to win this game, is they're going to affect Tua. Clearly, the Broncos have done nothing to affect Tua. There's no way they're going to score 70 points next week. I think the Bills the defensive line is going to be a huge difference. Let's talk about the offensive side of the ball, though. Josh Allen did not have his cleanest game. The offense didn't have their cleanest game of the day, but they were effective. They did what they needed to do to get a win. Let's look at Allen's stats for the day. Allen was, besides the one bad pick, 20 of 32, 218, a touchdown. He also ran for 46 yards on 3 carries. James Cook, 15 rushes, 98 yards, including that long 34-yarder at the end there. Diggs was dominant in his return back to Maryland. 8 catches, 111 yards. He's over 100 for the second time this year. The offense, it wasn't as sharp as it can be. They kicked field goals in times where you were hoping they would score touchdowns. This game probably could have been 52-0 or something like that if they really stamped down and the offense was as effective as it could be. But the defense was so damn good that McDermott was able to call the game a little more conservatively, and Josh didn't take unnecessary chances. Think of that first field goal. He didn't force it to the end zone. He didn't force it to a guy. He threw it out of the back of the end zone way high, and they took the points because they knew that they were going to dominate Sam Howell today. Do I think the Bills are going to be way more aggressive next week? Do I think that the Bills are going to, take more chances next week against a team where they need to have some risks and take some risks? Yes, I 100% do. That Dolphins team, they know they have to score with the Dolphins. They have not had, even week one, the Bills did not think that they were going to have to, they thought that they would be able to outscore those teams with ease. I truly believe that. They knew deep down that if we need to, we can outscore these teams. And that's what Allen felt when he felt that pressure week one to try to go and outscore them when they didn't need that from that game. Last week, everything was within flow, within rhythm against the Raiders. It was a pretty easy game. Today, the offense wasn't in flow, but they still kept it under control. And it didn't matter by the end. It didn't matter by the end because the defense was so good and the offense didn't hurt themselves. They didn't make mistakes. They kept it within themselves. They kept getting positive drive results besides the interception. And that's all you need. If you get points, if you end with a kick there, end with points, end with a touchdown, end with a field goal at the end of each drive, you're going to win a lot of games. And I know that you want to see them finish drives. I know people want the Bills offense to put up 70 like the Dolphins. Who wouldn't? The Dolphins are on another level right now, and it's going to be an interesting game next Sunday to see how these teams kind of attack each other. But the Dolphins have also played three teams that I don't think are really good. The Chargers right now they're up by 4 against the Vikings, but the Vikings are driving with a chance to win the game. So realistically, the Dolphins could be they could be a 3-0 team against a combined 1-8 record. And so I'm not trying to discredit what the Dolphins are doing because it's incredible what the Dolphins have been doing. They have been fantastic offensively and even defensively too. Vic Fangio has brought a new energy to that team, but they have not played a team like the Buffalo Bills yet this year. This is what's so wrong with everybody jumping to all these conclusions in the early season because we just haven't seen them really get tested yet. Today was not a test. The Broncos are a fucking mess, man. That team is bad. And what we know from the Bills is they figured their shit out the last couple weeks. They have now outscored teams 75-13 the last 2 weeks. 75-13. Okay? And I know the Dolphins put up 70 today. But let's just see how it goes next week. Josh Allen plays his best ball against the Dolphins. I feel like the offense still has their best day ahead of them. Why wouldn't it be next week in a game where they need to take a risk and they need to come up big and show out against the Dolphins? I think that the offense is going to be fine. I thought they were pretty damn good today. They didn't finish some drives. They'll work on that. Things to work on. But they played a dominant defensive line and didn't have many negative plays. How often can we say that about the Josh Allen-led Bills? He had one major mistake, one major throw that you can look at and be like, man, Josh, I really wish you wouldn't have made that throw. Other than that, what? There's not a lot to complain about on this game. I think that they had a very good game plan against a very dominant defensive line who has been able to take over games the past couple of years and were able to execute it. 37-3 against this team is not anything to sniff at. And I know it was basically a home game too. Shout out to Bills Mafia traveling 70%. I think people were saying basically Bills fans in the crowd. That's a huge boost too. Next week, the Highmark Stadium, the Ralph is going to be freaking rocking for the Dolphins. So it's going to be a tough game. All right. But that's the quick rapid post-game radio show here. Bills defeat Commanders 37-3. The Dolphins up with 70 points. It's a big Thank you all for joining. Have a great night, folks. This train never stops. Good night now.